Hello, I'm Rachel Elder. I am the owner and one of the therapists at Connected Couples Counseling. We serve couples in Washington State dealing with communication, conflict, and connection issues in their relationship. I wanted to come on today and talk about rules of conflict. Now, I'm going to preference, I am not a big rule person. I naturally, when I hear rule, expectation, I kind of want to rebel. And I always struggle to say this in my sessions with couples. And I always preference, I'm going to say we have some rules in place here, even though I really don't like rules. However, you can use the word rules, structure of conflict, process of conflict, whatever word works for you. Interchange rules if you're like me and you're like, rebel. But I do think with conflict, rules or a structure framework is really important and really helpful. This is probably the most common issue we work with our couples on in the work that we do. Most of us don't learn healthy ways of dealing with conflict. We typically have bad examples or role models of conflict. And unless you're a couples therapist, or someone who just loves personal development, you don't really study what's the best way to do conflict. You just know how to do conflict the way you know how to do it. So, in the work I have done with couples, I will teach them about Conflict 101. I'll provide the psychoeducation. We do some frameworks, and they really just struggle how to do it in a healthy way. So I've been kind of playing around with this idea of giving rules of conflict. In my sessions, it's probably just giving one rule to focus on that week. But I thought I'd break down the rules of conflict from our perspective and what it looks like. So I'm a big believer in the number 3. I like 3 ideas, 3 suggestions, 3 rules. We actually have 4 here, but the top 3 are the ones I want you to focus on, and number 4 is a bonus. So, rules of conflict from Connected Couples Counseling perspectives. The first step is that you and your partner both need to be in a place of being emotionally regulated, which means you feel in control of your emotions. You are aware of your emotions. They are not driving you, but you are driving them, and you are owning them and understanding them and managing them. A lot of times when conflict happens, we are what we call flooded or triggered. We are feeling strong emotions and strong reactions to those emotions. And when we try to work through a conflict in our partnership, it kind of collapses, or it just really doesn't go well, or creates even more conflict, which is not the goal. We want resolution. We want repair. So the first step is to make sure, am I in a place to have this conversation? Is my partner in a place to have this conversation? You are allowed to feel your emotions. That's important, but we don't want you to react them onto one another. We want you to express them. I feel angry, I feel hurt, I feel sad, I feel disappointed. Not the energy of that emotion being projected, thrown, reacted onto your partner. That does not typically work unless your partner is so good at staying regulated with emotions coming at them. So, that first step, are we in a place to have this conversation? Logically, emotionally, together? Do we have the time and energy to do it? If you're not emotionally regulated or ready, the work then is to self-soothe and get yourself to a place to have the conversation. Conflict really requires slowing down and carving out space. What happens though is when conflict happens, we don't like to do that. It doesn't feel good, it's uncomfortable, we want to move through it so quickly, and so we typically just go push, instead of slowing down and saying, am I ready? If not, can I take the time to emotionally regulate, to self-soothe, to make sure I am prepared to sit down and work on repair and resolution with you? Some of the ways that we suggest doing that self-soothing, my favorite example is I like to go watch an episode of The Office. It makes me laugh. It's my favorite feel-good show. It's a great kind of healthy distraction with a containment that it ends in 30 minutes. And can help me get out of that flooded, triggered state back into a more calm, peace, awareness of what's going on for me state. Going for a walk or run. I love to move my body when I'm struggling with the emotional energy I'm feeling. You can take a cold or hot shower. Those sensations instantly can bring you out of a flooded state. I also like to dance emotions out, dance energy out. That's a good movement. Deep breathing, if that works for you. It's a hit or miss for me. So I say it's a coping skill, but I don't force it because it can sometimes get my anxiety and my energy and my emotions even more ramped up. But these are just some different ideas. If you don't have healthy, impactful coping skills, sometimes people will say, I go drink, I go smoke, I go rant to my friends or parents or whoever my support system is about what's going on. Those are kind of instant gratification coping skills, but they don't have that long-term impact that we're looking for. So sometimes our coping skills, the ones that are really healthy, we may not feel immediately in the moment, but the long-term impact is that they stay present. They have a longer duration impact with you. So there's a difference between healthy and unhealthy coping skills too. Maybe we'll do a video on that someday. Okay, so that's rule 1. Get emotionally regulated. If you're not emotionally regulated, self-soothe so that you can come to the table, which is rule number 2. Once you're both emotionally regulated, sit down and decide who's going to start as a speaker and who's going to start as a listener. To work through conflict, to find resolution or repair, both sides need to be heard and understood. But both sides cannot be heard and understood if you're both trying to speak at the same time. That's what we call a collapse. So someone's got to choose to step into the listener role first, and someone's got to choose to step into the speaker role. And with that, each person has a different role. If you caught the Imago dialogue video we did a few weeks ago, that's a great example of this. But as a speaker, you're using that I language. You're talking about your thoughts, your feelings, your experience, your perspective, your needs. Key part is really getting clear of like what you need, because that typically points us to the resolution or repair. When you're the listener, you are tuning into your partner's experience. You still have your own experience of the conflict, but right now, as speaker, you're trying to understand theirs. Yours you're holding on to, it's not going anywhere, but you're not trying to defend it or push your perspective right now. You are really trying to say, I need it, I want to hear you, I want to understand you. What happened to us doesn't feel good, and how you're feeling is important to me, even if I see it differently, I had a different experience, or don't necessarily agree. You don't have to agree to be a good listener. When you're listening, you're being an active listener by tuning into the world, and then you're reflective listening by reflecting back what you're hearing. If I'm hearing you accurately, you feel hurt, you feel sad, you feel disappointed, you felt I was yelling at you. Is that right? Is there more? When their speaker is done speaking, you then want to summarize what you heard them say to the best of your ability, and you want to empathize and validate with their experience. I'm going to say it again. You can empathize and validate and not agree with your partner's thoughts, feelings, or experience. We don't need agreeance in our relationship. We need understanding. We need a way of compromising, coming together, and moving forward together. So that's your next step. Once that's done, you swap roles. So if you were a listener first, you're now the speaker, and you're repeating the same roles, same listener roles. Once that's done, the hope is that you can step into repair and resolution, which is honoring what is needed. Repair and resolution can look like a variety of things. It can look like compromising, apologizing, a behavior change request, comfort and connection, appreciation. Even empathy and validation can be the repair that's needed. So you would have already done that in step 2 or rule 2. But you want to step into repair and resolution and have a conversation of what that need is for each of you. It doesn't have to be the same. If it's not the same, you have to first ask of, can we step into the repair the other is asking? Can I do that authentically? And if your need and their need feels like they rub up against each other, then that's that invitation to work on compromise. What's the core part of our need? What are we not flexible on, and what are we flexible on? Those are the 3 rules. Number 4 is the bonus one. But if you can, when you are done with step 3, expressing gratitude for working on this together can be really powerful. just say thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with me. I know it wasn't easy. I know it was hard. I know there's some strong emotions here, and it really matters to me that we're talking about this. Thank you. Or thanks for working on not being defensive while we talked. That made it feel safer for me to bring how I was feeling to you, and it felt like I was connected to you more. Gratitude is huge. The other bonus step is to schedule a time to follow up on the repair or resolution you guys stepped into. Oftentimes when we have these conversations, when they go in a healthy way, we kind of feel like they close up, but we forget that part of repair and resolution is taking action. Whether that's learning from this conflict and trying to be mindful to not repeat patterns of it, or taking that action you said you would take from that resolution or repair process. So scheduling a time to sit back together in a week and say, hey, maybe we can sit down and see how this is going for us, what's working, what's not, how can we improve and grow together in this. Those are our rules of conflict that we suggest and we like to walk our couples through. Curious your thoughts, curious what rules you think we're missing, what we should be adding, because we like to hear from you and we like to hear your input and feedback. We've got a few resources today. We put these rules into a fun infographic, so you can find that link to that in the about section of this video, I think is what it's called. We also have a guide that we created, I think in like 2021, called How to Make Conflict Work For You Instead of Against You. That link's going to be there. And we spent some time creating a couples workbook earlier this year, and it's live on our site. If you want to do a deep dive on a workbook for you and your partner that is focused on keeping the love alive, we cover communication, conflict, and connection, and we set it up as being challenges, but in a fun way, the kind of a choose your own adventure challenge. But take this challenge and build this communication skill in your relationship. Take this challenge and become masters of conflict. Take this challenge and build more connection for you in your relationship. So if that's of interest to you, that's also at the link in the About section. You can check it out and see if it's for you. If not, that's okay. If you know someone who's looking for it, we always appreciate any recommendations to our blog, our website, our resources, and we so appreciate you. And I say we a lot because it's me and another colleague in the practice, but normally you see me. But we and I will see you next time.